Well, everybody, welcome back to the Tuxes and Tomahawks podcast. I'm Adam Dorito, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. John Noster. He, you guys know me. I love the anti-corruption stuff. I love going after the government for everything else, and John has a fascinating story. So, John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
So tell me more about you, John. Like, where did you come from? Before we even get into your story, like how did you build your life, and where did you come from, and all those other things?
Okay, first, I want to say thank you for having me on your podcast, and I would like to share my firsthand account with America of my experience being accused of a federal crime. I was denied my basic constitutional rights by the United States justice system, something you're interested in.
Yep.
A victim of FBI corruption. Real and true experiences of how the United States government tried to coerce me into handwriting documents that they had prepared, documents they knew were absolute lies. The United States government interrogators denied me my basic constitutional rights and basic due process. A senior federal judge, after reading a few court documents, stated, "This is vigilante justice by the authorities." Thank you. To start off, I was an accountant, got a degree in accounting for some, 12, 15 years. I was an accountant. Also, I did some stuff on the side, and it's the stuff on the side that I was arrested for, not the things that the government stated, but the things I did that were the work I performed that was other than accounting work.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, like you were an accountant, you got involved in some of these things. So where are you originally from?
I'm born and raised in LA, even though the government told America that I was born and raised in Texas. I was born and raised in LA, and during some of their news conferences, there were numerous lies. And various ones were that I was born and raised in Texas, that I had jet fuel, that I had explosives, that I was a white, not separatist, supremacist. Yes.
Nice.
And and I asked them, I said, what is up with this telling America that I was born and raised in Texas? And they said, well, the FBI and the DOJ both admitted that after their first story about me did not scare Congress and did not scare America, they went back to their offices, FBI back to their office in Washington, D.C., DOJ to their office in Washington, D.C., and they conducted research to find out what would scare, as they said, the stupid little Americans. Because they said Americans are obedient and Americans will always obey and believe everything we tell them. And so they went as they said, they conducted research to find out what would scare the American people. And I have a few of them here. One, that I had multiple rifle silencers, that I had pipe bombs, that I was anti-American, that I had a hatred for our government, that I was a white supremacist, that I had jet fuel, and then I had stolen guns for the furtherance of terrorism. Also, that I was born in Texas, which we already talked about, that I was born and raised in LA, and that I had schematics, and they talked about this Lens letter. Let's stop for a second and talk about this.
So how did you this even start? Like, how did the FBI target you? Like, how did they label you like white supremacist? Like, before we kind of get into like what they accused you of, like, how did this even start? Like, were you a January 6th guy? Like, were you posting things on the internet? Like, what was going on?
No, good question. No, according to the United States government, for 12 years previous to this, I had been driving across the country and had been to some foreign countries. And they said that they had intercepted one of these trailers that I had been transporting across the country. I presented you some documents on some of these trailers. I also presented you documents on, they were threatening to charge me with treason, 3 counts of treason to the United States government. And my federal attorney was given a subpoena to appear before the Department of Justice. And in it, they showed various pictures and videos of me driving across the country.
Okay.
And to other foreign countries. They also presented him with documents about driver's license in assumed names, credit cards in assumed names, bank accounts in assumed names, and they also talked about passports in assumed names. And they asked my federal attorney, what the hell is going on here? We want to know what the hell's going on. Who the hell is this guy? And in the videos, in the pictures, according to the Department of Justice, they said, or according to my federal attorney, they had videos of me unloading crates from these trailers. And the U.S. government stated that these crates had military markings on them. And they wanted to know why I was transporting crates with military markings on them.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And that's what the government was interested in. Now, the government did talk about in news conferences that John had been driving across the country for years, that in various news conferences, they stated that I had 20 fake driver's licenses, credit cards, bank accounts. They never used the word passport. They used the word, to my knowledge, they used the word other identification. And then it went from 20 to the next news conference. It was 50 to 60 driver's licenses, passport.
So how did they even come up with that number? Like, where did they find all of these things, or how did they even come up to that conclusion?
Well, they did not disclose that to me, but eventually they said,
isn't that a Brady violation though? Like, isn't that a Brady violation? Like, if you have, evidence used against you that the prosecutor's using, aren't you entitled to that information and the sourcing of that under Brady?
Let me tell you something. I don't know if you've ever been arrested for a federal crime or state crime or anything like that.
I've never been arrested, but I have definitely dealt in federal court with the federal government, with the United States Air Force Academy. I'm very familiar about how a lot of these AGs operate. I'm very familiar with how corrupt they are and how much they lie and how much they hide things, through FOIA requests and everything else. So that's why I'm interested in, they obviously are violating your rights. And the biggest thing that sticks out to me right now is you said you had 2 forms of identification. They said you had 50 or 60. Okay. You have to show me where you have that information. You can't just accuse me of that, right? If you're using that as evidence.
Well, they showed various documents to several lawyers of mine and a few of the federal attorneys.
Okay.
Now, one thing you learn when you're arrested, you have no rights.
Correct.
When I was interrogated, I asked for hours for an attorney. And as they say, you have no rights. Americans have no right. You have no right to an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
When they asked me about the pipe bombs, they asked me, how were the pipe bombs made? I said, I don't know how the pipe bombs were made. They asked me again, how were the pipe bombs made? I said, I don't know how the pipe bombs were made. Then they told me how the pipe bombs were made. And then I said to them, why did you tell me how the pipe bombs were made? They said, because now when we ask you how the pipe bombs were made and you say you don't know, that's lying to federal agents.
Right.
So they asked me again, how were the pipe bombs made? I says, I'm not going to comment. The thing is, the federal prosecutor in my case, the federal grand jury had approved charges for possession of multiple rifle silencers,
Mm-hmm.
for jet fuel, for possession for theft of guns,
Mm-hmm.
also for unauthorized possession of corporate checks and unauthorized access to corporate bank accounts.
Okay.
Now in court, now this is previous to the judge was still in chambers, but the federal prosecutor was talking to my attorney just maybe 8 feet in front of me prior to court, saying that, yes, the federal grand jury has approved charges for the multiple rifle silencers, the theft of guns, jet fuel, blah, blah, blah. He said, I know that this evidence has been falsified. I talked to the state prosecutor, and much of the evidence in John's state cases has been falsified. I know the rifle silencers were planted. I know the theft of the guns were falsified. I know the jet fuel was planted. My attorney asked the federal prosecutor, well, what about these pipe bomb charges and stuff? He said, I've been told if I push to have these charges dropped, that I would be fired, and I have political ambitions. And if I'm fired as a federal prosecutor, my political ambitions will be null and void. I will have no future in politics.
So do you think that you were a target because you had political ambitions and they were trying to do things in order to keep you out of those positions?
No, I should have said something here. Probably a while before I was arrested, according to the U.S. government and my attorneys, mm-hmm. one of these triple axle trailers that they say I was transporting across the country was intercepted by the U.S. government.
Okay.
And inside one of these trailers was contraband.
What was that contraband?
I cannot say.
Okay.
That I cannot say. But I will say this. I had
what is like illegal salsa from Mexico or something?
Just about.
Perfect.
But I did have federal agents tell me that this trailer was intercepted. And they said to me, they go, you know why you were arrested. You're not arrested because this story the government's making up about you. You're arrested because the government has been looking for you for a while. The government intercepted one of those triple axle trailers, and it was full of contraband. Mm-hmm. And when you are charged with this will give you a life sentence. That's what they said. And let me tell you, whatever was said, it did intimidate, it did affect my federal attorneys.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so they pulled this triple axle trailer saying it had full of contraband. Obviously, it was interstate things. That's how the feds get involved. So why do you think you were the target of this operation? Like, what was their end state? Like, what was the reasoning
Oh, I
for them
wasn't.
doing this?
I wouldn't say I was a target. This was something I had been doing, or excuse me, I shouldn't say I had been doing. According to the U.S. government, this is an activity I was involved in for just over 12 years.
Okay.
And that they were watching me, and that they came up with this idea that something other than 100% was going on, and they intercepted one of these trailers. Now, one thing is, the U.S. government, to scare the American public, said that I had jet fuel, that I had 55 gallons of jet fuel, various 55-gallon drums. I never had a drop of jet fuel. That was stated by the FBI and the DOJ to scare America. As I asked them, I said, why did you tell them I had jet fuel? They said, because if we told them you had unleaded gasoline, it wouldn't scare anybody. Our research concluded that telling the stupid little Americans that I had jet fuel would scare millions of them. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep the stupid little Americans scared. Now, according to the FBI and DOJ, they said, we know why you had this unleaded gasoline. You had this unleaded gasoline, you put it into the trailers, and that you used this gasoline to fuel the truck as you drove these trailers across the country. We know there was never anything added to the unleaded gasoline. That was your one and only purpose for having the unleaded gasoline.
Yeah.
And what happened is they, according to the FBI and DOJ, they intercepted one of these trailers, and that's what started this whole thing. And that they were looking for me for quite a while to try and find me.
Okay. So then how did the case progress from here? They had all this circumstantial evidence against you, and then they started dragging you into court proceedings. So what was going on when that was happening?
Okay. I was charged in state court for grand theft auto. Mm-hmm. But as the documents show, and as FBI agents and DOJ agents bragged, they said, you never stole a truck. No truck was ever stolen. But we got a conviction because we faked the loan application. Mm-hmm. The loan application is handwritten. I did handwrite a loan application, but the loan application used in court is not my handwriting. It was not done by me. It was not done by anybody I authorized to write it. Mm-hmm. The FBI and DOJ also said that they faked a stolen vehicle report, that they had the Pasadena Police Department fake court documents to say they were the victim of this charge.
Right.
And the FBI and DOJ also said that they faked a stop payment for this truck to create this charge.
Okay.
There was never a stop payment on this charge. And the GMC dealer, the gentleman I bought the truck from, signed a federal affidavit that stated John's down payment went through, was good, and that he never signed a stolen vehicle report, that the Pasadena Police Department and their detectives falsified this stolen vehicle report. Now, the FBI and DOJ all admitted that they did this, and that's how they got the first charge on me. Now, there was a second charge, an embezzlement charge, with this athletic company. Now, the FBI and DOJ, during interrogations, admitted that I never embezzled from them because for 4 months, this athletic company said, I never embezzled from them. John never embezzled, and there was no embezzlement. And then the FBI and DOJ laughed and they said, we found out that this athletic company was committing tax fraud, falsifying federal documents, and lying to Congress. What there was congressional hearing about baseballs coming off of metal bats and hitting pitchers in the head. This was quite a few years ago.
Okay.
But there was a congressional hearing about that. So this athletic company was conducting research. And according to the FBI and DOJ, when they talked to him about it, the owner of this company said, I don't care about these little brats. These little brats try to steal my company. These little brats, now these are statements made by the FBI and DOJ. These little brats knew the consequences of their actions when they walked onto the baseball field. And I don't care how many of these little kids were hurt. According to the FBI and DOJ, he told them that when bat tests did not go their way, they would have employees pay for these bat tests so that they would not have to disclose these bat tests to Congress. FBI discovered this and that found out they were hiding evidence, hiding documents, hiding tests about baseball tests, that they threatened to arrest and charge the owner of the company, the head of legal counsel, and the corporation itself with tax fraud, lying to Congress, and falsifying federal documents. And they
So
said,
did this have to do with the MLB? Like, was this made like supplies to the Major League Baseball? Like,
well, from my knowledge, Congress and was debating if metal bats should be used in high schools and in college. And that's what this, as far as I can remember, that's what this this congressional hearing was about.
okay.
And like I said, the FBI found out that this athletic company was hiding all these documents. They threatened to charge them. And then the FBI said, once we threatened to charge them, they said, oh yeah, there's embezzlement going on. Now I sent you 2 sets of documents. Mm-hmm. And the FBI said, at first we told this athletic company to say that you were fired for embezzlement. And I gave you numerous documents showing that I was fired for embezzlement. Then the FBI had a couple different stories. One was they couldn't backdate a report of embezzlement, so they had to change the story. The truth is, they finally said the state of California would not file charges on embezzlement unless they just found out embezzlement was just had taken place. So they said they went back to this athletic company and they recreated all these new documents. And I gave you documents that said that how the LAPD and the Pasadena police were saying that there's no evidence that this athletic company knew of embezzlement before John was arrested. So then they changed all the documents from saying I was fired for embezzlement to they did not know of any embezzlement until I was arrested. And that's what I was charged with.
Okay. So from there, where did the case go?
Well, the thing is, the FBI wanted me to talk about what these credit cards, bank accounts, IDs, where I went, what I did with them, and what I transported in these trailers.
For trafficking like baseballs and bats? Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like,
yeah, this has nothing to do with that company.
Right. Okay.
It's my side job.
Right. Got you. So it just seems like the reason why they're targeting you, like, this isn't like, you know, they said you were building pipe bombs and transporting jet fuel and you have all these other things involved.
Lies.
Yeah. So like, why were you such a target with the FBI? You know what I mean? Like, who did you piss off, John? Like, that's my question is like, what congressman, what congresswoman, what senator, like, why would they waste millions of dollars of taxpayer resources to go after John Noster?
Very good question. And that's all I can say about that.
Okay.
But I will say this. In federal court, with federal Judge Wilson present, I shouldn't say names, but the federal judge present, he asked when it came up about charges against me in federal court, the federal judge, whoever it was, I've seen a few federal judges, the federal judge that I was presented in front of said, what about these credit cards, driver's licenses, bank accounts, passports, and all this stuff like that? And let me try and find my notes here. The federal prosecutor's statement to the federal judge was, no one was financially harmed.
Okay.
So therefore, no one was financially harmed. And at this time, the government has no interest in pursuing charges against the defendant.
Okay.
And this defendant, this federal judge said, I don't give a shit if no one was financially charged. I don't care if no one was financially harmed. This defendant committed wire fraud, money laundering, credit card fraud, bank fraud, falsifying federal documents.
Yeah, but like against
He
who?
said-
Like your company? Like for interstate commerce? Like is that what like this is all based on? Like so this is like a federal charge, the FBI, they're basically charging you with a bunch of white collar crimes, and then you got some bombs and jet fuel mixed in there apparently.
No. This is the thing. The federal prosecutor says at this time, the U.S. government is not interested in pursuing charges. Now, the federal judge says, I have seen numerous documents of discovery, and I have seen that millions of dollars have gone through these bank accounts every year.
Were they your bank
For
accounts?
Good question. But millions of dollars had gone through these bank accounts that for years he had been using these credit cards, driver's license, passports, and he should be charged with these crimes. And I was never charged. And about 2 months after this conversation, and this conversation with the judge happened about the same time my attorney was sent to Department of Justice headquarters in Washington, D.C., where they showed him the driver's license, passports, videos. And he said when he walked into this office, there was one man sitting, one man behind him, and that there were about 7 other Department of Justice agents standing against the wall. And they showed him they showed my federal attorney all these driver's licenses, bank account documents. And my attorney said there was a stack of passports at the end of the desk. And the gentleman behind the one sitting knocked over the passports.
Were they of you? Like were
my attorney said he looked at every one of these passports. Every one of these passports, he said, John, has your face on it and someone else's name.
So did they make up this evidence against you? Like did the FBI make up 50 passports with John Noster's 50 aliases on them?
There weren't 50 passports, but my attorney came back and said to me, they want to know how you got these passports. And
I want to know how you got these passports personally. I'm trying to figure out why is the FBI doing this? Like, you know, obviously you're saying that you didn't do any of these things, but they have all these so-called evidence against you. Your federal attorney is being presented with this information by the FBI in Washington, D.C. Like, are you James Bond? That's my next question. Is like, are you the international man of mystery? I
am John, just plain John, American man. That's
okay.
You can put together the pieces. You know what's going on.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to. I'm just trying to figure out why they care so much about you. Like, I know why the federal government went after me. I was exposing rape and sexual assault with a bunch of 3-star generals at a federal service academy and taking away millions of dollars of revenue. Like, I understand why they went after me. I'm just trying to figure out why they're spending so much time and resources going after you.
Well, the biggest thing is I would not talk about this. The thing is, in FBI 302s, there's nothing but lies in them.
Okay.
FBI 302s are there to create hostility and anger against the defendant. Like in my FBI 302, it'll say, I went over to these two friends and the three of us made pipe bombs. That's what the FBI said I said.
Did they have pipe bombs in their possession that they tried to link to you?
FBI went over to these guys and talked to them. They said, what are you talking about? I've never seen a pipe bomb. John's never talked about pipe bombs. John's never talked about explosives. John's never talked anything anti-American. But they put this in an FBI 302 to create anger and hostility towards me. And there's other things. They said that in the FBI 302s, I obtained all this personal information so that I could steal money from individuals through credit cards and bank accounts. And as I stated, I have never been charged for any of that stuff. Okay. And no one has ever been financially harmed 1 cent.
Okay, so they spent all this time and resources going after you, accusing of all these things, then you never got charged with it, but why?
Well, this is the thing. I thought you might have already predicted this, but 3 weeks, and the thing is, when my federal attorney had a subpoena issued to present himself before the DOJ, I tried to find out who he met. Mm-hmm. And I remember my federal attorney says, I've been ordered that I cannot tell you who I met, who was in the room, whose office it was, or what floor of the Department of Justice it was on. So I cannot tell you.
Why can't you tell me? Like, is this like, is it sealed?
That's not what I'm saying. That's what my federal attorney said to me when I tried to find out who he talked to at the Department of Justice. He told me he couldn't tell who he met with, who was in the office, whose office it was, or what floor it was on.
Is this under the Biden administration?
No, this was under the what's his name? Bush.
Okay, so this is a minute ago. Okay, so
yes.
So after all of this stuff occurred, you never got charged. They put all this time and resources into you. Like,
here's the thing I meant to say with that. That my federal attorney, the same one who was issued a subpoena to appear to the Department of Justice, received another subpoena to appear before the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. I assume to meet the same individuals. 3 weeks later, after the first time, 3 weeks later, he went back to the Department of Justice. He said he was asked to come into the office. He said the same 7, 8 people were along the wall. There was one guy sitting, no guy behind him. And he said that they asked him to sit, and the guy sitting down at the desk asked him, so you know why you're here, correct? And my federal attorney says, no, I do not know why. And he said, are you sure you do not know why? He said, no. He said, has your client told you anything? And he says, no. He says, all the evidence we presented in front of you, the credit cards, driver's license, bank accounts, passports, pictures and videos of my travel have all disappeared. Mm-hmm. We want to know how the hell and who authorized the destruction of this evidence.
Wait, so they destroyed the evidence that they presented against you?
They don't know what happened to it.
Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that literally doesn't make any sense, John. Like, I have no idea why they'd spend all these time and resources to charge you with something, or they were going to, and then the evidence that they're using against you disappears. Like what is this? What is this connected to? Like, is this a Department of Defense thing? Is this an FBI thing? Like, did a congressman bang some hooker in Tijuana and then you found out about it and they went after you? Like, there's got to be some base reason of why they would spend all of this time and resources against you and then magically poof, it's gone. Like, did you commit 9/11? Is you know what I mean? Like, if this is under Bush, it's like. Yeah, I'm just trying to I'm trying to connect the dots for the audience, right? You know, I understand you understand your case very well, and you know I understand government corruption and federal agent corruption very well. But I'm just trying to connect the dots of why the U.S. government would spend so much time and resources against an American citizen, and then poof, nothing, it's gone.
That's a good question. The only way I can say it is not everything.
Are you not allowed to talk about it? Like, has this been like sealed in a court document or something? Is that why you can't explain why all this happened to you?
The best thing I could say is not everybody knows everything that happens within the family.
Okay.
That is a good answer.
Okay, so what happened with the result of your case then?
Well, I was tried for the having the pipe bombs, and I wanted to fight it,
like Ted Kaczynski style, like Ted Kaczynski's Unabomber in Montana.
Well, the thing is first is the first story was, you know, they presented to Congress that I was a terrorist and that these pipe bombs were going to be used for it. And they said at their first story, and let me go back a step here. The FBI and DOJ said in interrogations to me that for 2 weeks, they told the Pasadena police, the Los Angeles Police Department, and the LA sheriffs to come up with a story. And that they promised them that John is never going to be released, that we have enough evidence to give John 3 life sentences. And as I showed you,
that's pretty serious. Like, that's pretty serious. So I'm
so
trying
the thing is, the cops, they said they went to the cops. They told them John is never going to be released. John is never going to be able to tell anybody the truth. And any monies found, we will give you that money as long as you create the documents, create the court documents, the evidence that we want you to create. So they spent this time. They came up with a story.
But for what? John, like, for what though? Like, okay, so now they're saying they're going to charge you with all these things, but then they're saying they're going to take all the money and give it to your lawyer, or whoever else it is, if they frame you for this. But like, for what?
Well,
like, getting domestic terrorism charges is a big deal, right? So I'm trying to wonder. I'm trying to figure out, and the audience is trying to connect the dots of why they're doing this to you, and why it all just went away.
As they said, I asked them. I said, "What the hell is up with these saying I had pipe bombs and I had this and I had this?" They said, "We're going to use you to scare the stupid little Americans. We need to keep the stupid little Americans scared." Now, remember, this was
like what, like the general public, stupid Americans, like
yes.
Like, but like, why are they trying to use you as an example to why you shouldn't commit domestic terrorism and white nationalism or something?
No,
like a Waco thing, a Ruby Ridge thing, like.
No, this is something because they said by scaring the stupid little Americans, we get everything we want.
And what is that?
As they said to me, we get more power, more control, more money, and the stupid little Americans lose more of their rights. As long as we keep the stupid little Americans scared, they lose more of their rights, and we have more power, more control over them.
So you believe that you, as well as maybe several other Americans over the last 2-3 decades, have been specifically targeted in order for the government to gain more power and scare Americans into complying to whatever the federal government tells them to do, and if not, they're just going to charge you with domestic terrorism?
Well, this is the thing. They did not think I would ever be released. Okay.
Okay.
And and I'm only telling you some of the stuff. Okay. The real reason I wish I could sit here and tell you the real reason I was released, but I have never been one of these government conspirators and stuff like this. You can look up my name. You can talk to every one of my friends.
Did you see the alien spaceships in Area 51? Is this why they're doing this to you, John? Like, you got to know something on the government. You know what I mean? Like, because you won't say why you were released.
I'm not saying I don't. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't. But the thing you have to remember is you've stated several times that these are serious charges. Terrorism is serious charges.
Yeah, life imprisonment.
Okay, and I'm here talking to you, and I'm not in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read the document where I said they sent me like 20 days after I was done with federal court?
Yeah.
They sent me to a camp.
Which camp?
It's called Taft Camp. It's up in California. It had no fences, no walls, no barriers. At least twice a week, I was sitting out by the fire pit, sometimes cooking marshmallows.
Who else was out there with you? Like, who are in these camps? Like, is Osama bin Laden out there still? Like,
the people in these camps are typically people who commit fraud.
Okay.
There were like 3 guys I knew that were there for not driving intoxicated.
Like the Wolf of Wall Street guys. Are they out there too?
Well, that's New York.
Yeah, I'm just saying they might as well put them in California at this rate. All these hidden camps where they keep all these white collar, domestic terrorists. Apparently.
Look at it. You said this is serious charges.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you think and why do you think I was sent to a camp? And just days after federal court, I'm sitting under trees, pine trees, watching birdies go through the trees, sitting there with my chair, having a drink or two, and non-alcoholic.
Sure.
No. But, sitting there by a bonfire, toasting marshmallows. Why? And
why?
There's no cells. There's no cells. We had cubicles, just like an office. And at Christmas time, I put up my Christmas lights, and I went and made gingerbread houses, and I got second place and got 2 bags of commissary.
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. So the federal government puts you out there to build gingerbread houses and roast marshmallows on a federal internment camp for domestic terrorists. This is fascinating. I did not know American prisons were this awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to go build a gingerbread house and roast marshmallows and drink non-alcoholic beer for committing domestic terrorism charges, apparently?
You missed Friday night. Friday night, we would see first-run movies, but they would give everybody free sodas, free popcorn. Every Friday, we would sit there and eat free popcorn, free sodas, and we played bingo for commissary bags.
What is going on right now? This is John. This is wild.
I would be out at 2:00 in the morning with the bonfire going when they called yard, and we'd be toasting marshmallows. Me and my friends would look over the valley. This is what it was like.
Okay, so how did you get out of this Candyland prison, apparently in Taft, Northern California?
No, it's Central California.
So this Taft prison in Central California. Like, how did you end up removing yourself from this situation?
Well, my time ended, and I went to a halfway house, and then I went and got a basic job.
Okay. Did you go back to accounting? Like, what were you doing after
that?
Oh,
no. I just did basic warehouse work.
Okay. So they just release you?
Yeah.
After all this, with no explanation.
No. I gotta go. I gotta, like you said, these were serious charges. Yes. They want to keep me behind bars. So what happened is I was out for a few years, or like 2.5 years.
Uh-huh.
And then, well, I hate to do this, but I have to go back a little bit.
Okay.
When I wanted to fight the charges in federal court, the FBI and DOJ came to me, and they threatened my life, they threatened my father's life, and they threatened the life of my sister. They said, if you go and take this charge to trial, we will go and have federal agents and reporters go to your dad's house every day of trial, and the federal agents and our reporters will go door to door, talk to your dad and the neighbors of your dad. And your dad's not doing real well right now. We've talked to him. How do you think your dad is going to do with our reporters and our federal agents going door to door and having your dad's friends ask him every day you're in court, every day you're on trial, is your son really a terrorist? Do you think your father is going to survive that? And then, let me get this here. And then they said, we're going to go to your sister's work, and we're going to talk to your sister's fellow employees and her bosses. How long do you think your sister is going to keep her job with our federal agents and our reporters going day after day, talking to her bosses, talking to her fellow employees? How long do you think she's going to keep her job? And then they said to me, you could take this case to federal trial.
Mm-hmm.
If you and you could win this case and charges be dropped. But if you take this case to trial and win this case against the federal government, we will have you charged with trying to have sex with little girls.
Wait, what? What? So now they're trying to charge you with pedophilia on top of domestic terrorism charges and white-collar crime, and go after your family for these things.
This is what they said. And in 2.5 years after I was released, I was arrested for, guess what?
What?
Trying to have sex with 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds.
Oh, God. Okay. You didn't actually do that, right?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure that that's clear.
No. I was arrested about 2.5 years after for trying to have sex with 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old girls.
Okay.
Now, when I was arrested, there were 30 vehicles, FBI agents, LAPD, and Sacramento police. The staging area, I believe, was 13035 through 13013 Satakoy Street in Panorama City, California.
Mm-hmm.
There were 30 vehicles. Now, when I was arrested, I was in the Sacramento police car with 2 detectives. Detective number 1, she said she was recording this interrogation on her personal phone.
Right.
A few minutes later, these FBI agents walk up to me with the dark blue, yellow letters on it. And they said to me, we want to know where the explosives, where the pipe bombs, where the documents are. I said, there were no pipe bombs the first time. There were no explosives the first time. There are no pipe bombs. There are no explosives. There are no writings this time. It's the same as the last. Your superiors have lied to you. There was none when I first arrested, and there are none today. And they said that they had gone through my apartment. They've searched everything. They said they had 2 FBI dog teams. They couldn't find anything. They said they went through all my documents that are there. Nothing. And I said, that's because when I was first arrested years ago, there never were any pipe bombs. There never were any explosives. There never were any writings. They walked away, and I'm there with the 2 Sacramento detectives. And detective number 1 turns to me and says, you know, the FBI is the one pushing for this charge. The FBI is the one that wants this charge.
Why?
And they want this charge. They want this charge not because of what you've done, but because of what you know. And by charging you with having sex with little girls, 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old girls, is going to destroy any credibility you have. No one is ever going to listen to you because we have charged you with trying to have sex with little girls. Now, all these charges were dropped.
Okay.
And I sent you these documents. I'm surprised this is
No, I mean,
I did send you these documents.
Yeah, that's fine that I've reviewed them, but I'm trying to connect the dots for the audience about why all this is happening, because no one understands why this is occurring, John. These are some pretty serious charges: domestic terrorism, white collar crime, pedophilia, going after your family, locking you in an internment camp. Why? Why are they doing this to you?
Okay, now this is the thing: is after all charges were dropped, and then of course they sent me back to federal court because I only had like 26 days or something like that left on federal supervised release. And according to the FBI, that it took them a month and a half to find out that all charges were dropped. So I was able to find an attorney to file a civil rights lawsuit. Okay. The important thing here is just days after all charges were dropped, days after, I'm still in Sacramento, the FBI came and visited me. The FBI came and said to me, "You know why you were charged with this? We told you to keep your mouth shut."
Keep your mouth shut about what?
You need to keep your mouth shut. And we know you've been talking to reporters. So we warned you, we threatened to charge you with having sex with little girls. That's why you were arrested. And then they said, the same method we used to falsify your handwriting, your writing, your signature, we used the same method to falsify Deputy District Attorney Andrews' handwriting and signature. Now,
So the FBI admitted to you that they falsified documents on your behalf?
Yes.
Okay.
Many. I told you before where they admitted that they falsified.
Is there any?
That's a given.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, that's a very big accusation, and I'm just trying to say, like, was this
the truth?
I'm not doubting what the truth is. I'm just saying, like, did a judge figure this out? Like, how did all this get dropped? Because, like I said, most people that are charged with this are going to prison for 25 years plus, right? So I'm trying to figure out how you got out of this.
Well, the charge is 27 years in California,
right?
But all charges were dropped. A couple of things you need to know. First, evidence was destroyed. Now, I gave you documents, but they admitted in court, and I have the documents there, that this pedophile, that his pictures, his videos, and his phone number were destroyed. Because this little girl had this guy's pictures, videos on her phone, but they admit that they destroyed his pictures, his videos, and his phone number. My attorney asked, how was that done? And they said, because the Sacramento police were downsizing, and they were moving this detective from detective to street. And they hired a new detective, and when she arrived, she thought the desk was dirty. So she put a trash can next to the desk, threw everything in the trash can, and threw it away. That was her explanation in federal court of how this evidence was destroyed. Now, the FBI was running a parallel investigation. So when my attorney found out that this evidence was destroyed, he contacted the FBI. And to his surprise, the FBI admitted that they had also destroyed this guy's pictures, his videos, and his phone number. Now, remember, the Sacramento police still have this girl's phone.
Right.
They still have her phone. Okay, another thing is that my lawyer found out while I was arrested, this pedophile was still running his chat site. He was still raping 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girls.
Did they ever find this guy?
Incarcerated.
Did they ever
Well,
find this guy?
And the thing is the girl and the mom were told by the court system to have a 10 to fill out a 10-question questionnaire to identify this pedophile. They both said that this guy was born in United Kingdom, that he had a British accent, that he was living in Austria, that he smoked, that he was left-handed, had blue eyes, and that if he was circumcised or not. Every single one of these 10 questions did not apply to me. Every one of these 10 questions did not apply to me. Now, I sent you documents. Well, when my lawyer found out that this site was still going, my lawyer contacted the LA Police Department, the LA Sheriff's Department, Sacramento Police, and the FBI, and told them all that this guy was still active on his site and that you should investigate it. All agencies said, we don't care. We're done with our investigation. We're not conducting any more investigation. We don't care what this guy is doing. And I gave you a document that shows that my lawyer sent an investigator and found out 3 years after I was released. 3 years after I was released, this guy was still raping 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-old girls. And when my lawyer contacted the LAPD, Sacramento Police, the Pasadena Police, and the FBI, they all said they didn't care.
Okay. So after all of this, like, how did you get out of this, and how are you living your life now?
Well, it's hard because I lost my first set of friends when I was initially arrested. Mm-hmm. And then I had some friends. And then I was arrested for this child thing. And then I lost those when they found out I was arrested. And I've applied for jobs. And when they see you're charged with this thing, you're not convicted because all charges were dropped. I won a federal civil rights lawsuit against Sacramento for this. Okay. You're not going to win. You're not going to win a federal civil rights lawsuit unless you are 100% innocent.
Okay. And
I was arrested. I was arrested, as I said, by the FBI because when I was being interrogated by Sacramento, they said, you are being arrested, not for what you've done, but for what you know. And that the FBI wants you arrested so that you can be discredited. No one will ever talk to you, and no one will ever believe anything you have to say. And I thank you for having me on this show.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, John. So any closing words to the audience about your experiences and, you know, any words of wisdom to them moving forward?
Well, the one thing I want to say is don't believe everything the FBI tells you. Mm-hmm. You know, go and think about it. And I just want to say that the U.S. government and the FBI are both very corrupt in what they do and in what they say. And do not believe what they say. You know, question it. Look, you know, think about it. That's what I ask you.
Great. Well, John, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling your story of enduring this, you know, wrongful prosecution by the federal government. And it's, you know, my experience with the federal government hasn't been too great either. You know, there's obviously massive corruption in the Attorney General's office and everything else. And I hope, you know, a lot of people out there understand that when you start exposing the truth or, you know, exposing the lies of the federal government, that, you know, it could end up very bad for you, as in the story that you just told us. Yes. Thanks again, John.
I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast. We'll play the closeout. And, you know, like I said, this episode will be live on all platforms on Monday. And I hope everyone here that watched it live enjoyed your story.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
America
Awesome. Thanks, John. I